I'm joined now by Simon Benson, National Affairs Editor at The Australian. Simon, in Canberra, tell me, how long is it going to be until Bridget McKenzie is forced to resign off the back of this inquiry by field agents?
Oh, well, it's not a matter of how long I think it's going to take. I think it's how long Scott Morrison would like it to take. You would have to think that he'd want it wrapped up by Tuesday, because the most pressing thing for him this week is not the distraction of her necessarily, but what it means ahead of his press club speech on Wednesday, which is going to be a vitally important speech. That was all about repositioning from the disastrous month that he's had.
Well, wait, we're going to get to that in a second, because that is a big speech in terms of repositioning on climate change. That is going to be significant for Scott Morrison. But I just want to stick to Bridget McKenzie for a minute, and you wrote your column on this in the Weekend Australian. Doesn't the pork barrelling that she's accused of by the Auditor-General implicate the Prime Minister and Scott Morrison as well?
Well, I don't know. That remains to be seen. I don't think so, though. I mean, Scott Morrison's office, their explanation for having two staffers communicate with Bridget McKenzie's office about it was based on representations MPs were making to the Prime Minister's office of how they could get their hands on some of this money. Look, I think the general view is she's cactus. But you have to ask, what has she done wrong? Pork barrelling, God, I mean, what a revelation. But it seems to be the issue that it's centring around is her membership of this Clay Target Shooting Club and the declaration of the membership that she has. Now, they're tested against the Ministerial Code of Conduct. There's a pretty clear statement by Scott Morrison in that code that he expects ministers who have extra responsibilities to disclose everything. Now, if she hasn't disclosed it, it's $300 membership. I mean, is it a hanging offence? You be the judge. I think it sets a pretty low benchmark. But in essence, I mean, you know better than anyone. It's not often the substance in politics as it matters; it's the optics, and the optics look terrible. But going back to Scott Morrison and any implication his office may have in it, I mean, this is what Labor will pursue. They think there's bigger fish to fry than Bridget McKenzie. They're going after the marlin in Scott Morrison, and you'd have to think Senate estimates coming up in March, the Senate inquiry that they've initiated. Who knows what that may cough up, a loose document somewhere, an email between the two offices. It's not going to go away, even if Bridget McKenzie goes by Tuesday.
And the fact is, Simon, that Bridget has a lot of enemies. People have been pushing for her to go inside the Nationals for a long time now. The Nationals are very factional at the moment. Potentially always have been, but at the moment, particularly, they're very factional, and Bridget McKenzie has been a target. If she does go, and as you say, we're all expecting, it'll be a surprise if Phil Gagen's report finds that she's in the clear. But everyone, including the Prime Minister's office, as you say, is expecting that she is going to have to step down. If she does, how vulnerable does that leave the leader of the Nationals, Michael McCormack, who, as we know, took over after Barnaby Joyce?
Well, I mean, it does come down to a question of his leadership. I mean, if she is cleared, Scott Morrison obviously can't punt her from the ministry or the cabinet. I mean, it'd be hard to. But then if she's lost the support of the Nationals party room, then it becomes an issue for Michael McCormack, and how's he going to sort it out? The issue for Michael McCormack, I mean, if he's smart, he would have already stitched up a deal with David Littleproud, Canavan and Darren Chester. The deal would have already been done. It's sitting there waiting to go. If he hasn't, then anything could happen.
Now, Simon, now to the press club speech on Wednesday that Scott Morrison is giving that you referred to a moment ago. This is significant because it's going to outline the Prime Minister's vision for this year, including trying to reposition the government on climate change without actually changing any targets. How will this work?
Oh, that's a very good question. Look, these statements that are usually at the start of every year are always very important for governments and for a Prime Minister. And in the past, they've been vitally important because historically, the governments of the last 5 years have always gone to Christmas with barnacles they've got to clear, and they've got to come back to January and reposition. Now, the problem for Scott is obviously that they went to the end of the year in quite a good position. He went on holidays, the bushfire crisis erupted around him, and I mean, he's had a shocker. So this statement, this address this week is critical. It is vitally important. But going back to the Bridget McKenzie thing, I mean, he's not going to get any clear air on anything he says if the Bridget McKenzie thing is the only thing journalists ask him at the press club. So, but on the climate change, look, given the divisions in the party room, and I don't think there's been a cabinet meeting in the last week, and there certainly hasn't been a party room meeting since December last year, he's not going to say anything that's going to scare the horses. I think he will make a statement around it, but I can't see it being demonstrably different to what he's said already, which is, yes, we want to take action, longer-term action on reducing emissions. A lot of that will be around technology. They're not going to change targets. But the shorter-term message is what they do about dealing with the consequences of it and the resilience. And that's the narrative that they're trying to find. And I don't think you'll see him go off script and announce anything that's going to blow up the party room.
Yeah. Thank you, Simon Benson from Canberra. Appreciate your time.